Hello, everyone. My name is Linda Crockett, and I am the founder of the Canadian Institute of Workplace Bullying Resources. My background is as a trauma therapist, and I specialize in this area of work where I work with leadership, teams, individuals. I don't only train, I provide consultations and coaching, but I also provide the clinical side in treatment. And I strongly believe that every person involved needs to be trauma informed. So thank you, Gary, my good friend, for allowing me to offer this short presentation. We have the free resource available to you. If you see the website address at the bottom there, the Guarding Minds at Work offers 13 psychosocial factors that impacts all employees' mental health. And these 13 are very well defined on this website. Plus, they offer free surveys and that you can send out to your teams if you want to take the pulse of what's going on in your workplace. It's a great resource for you. A trauma-informed approach to workplace bullying recognizes the profound psychological, emotional, and physical impact of bullying on individuals and organizations. It prioritizes safety, trust, empowerment, and accountability, ensuring that all responses to bullying are rooted in compassion, transparency, and evidence-based practices. There are 6 key principles of trauma-informed approaches to workplace bullying, but there are more. I just happen to put the ones that I feel are most important here. And for example, safety, psychological safety, creating a workplace culture where employees feel physically, psychologically, and emotionally safe, establishing clear, confidential, and accessible reporting mechanisms for workplace bullying. That also means alternative reporting mechanisms, just in case someone does not feel safe to report to HR or their leader. There needs to be alternatives. And at the end of the day, if there is just no one available in your workplace, then reach out to the Workplace Bullying Institute or to us in Canada, someone close by externally, so that you can feel safe and have someone to reach out to for information. Trust and transparency, ensuring fair and unbiased investigations, for example, that prioritize the well-being of all parties. Keeping communication open and consistent to build trust between leadership, HR, and employees. Empowerment and choice, providing individuals with multiple options for support, including trauma-informed counseling, because all therapists are not trauma-informed, coaching, and you do not have to be a clinician to be trauma-informed, and legal guidance. We really want lawyers. If they're going to be doing the investigations or involved in any way, they should be trauma-informed. Encouraging participation in decision-making processes that affect their recovery and their workplace conditions. So have options, but make sure with those options that they include trauma-informed and some knowledge of the systems involved. Collaboration and peer support, encouraging healthy workplace relationship, mentorship, and peer support programs, and recognize the roles of allies and bystanders in preventing and addressing workplace bullying. We need our bystanders, so let's make it safe for those bystanders to report and write, meaning no retaliation or judgment. Cultural competence and inclusion means addressing the unique needs of the diverse employees, including those from marginalized groups. So there may be other aspects that you need to take into consideration. Ensure that diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility principles are embedded in workplace policies and practices. Accountability and repair, holding perpetrators accountable while providing education and interventions where appropriate. There are resources available for those who are substantiated for workplace bullying. If we don't hold them accountable, they will not willingly come in for help. We need to help them find those resources. Dr. Gary and I provide those resources, and we can help support change, which ultimately helps every employee and the overall culture. Offering repair and recovery pathways for those harmed, including mental health support and workplace accommodations. Most employment organizations have EAP. Those EAPs not necessarily trained in this area, so you need specialized therapists who understand all the multiple layers complexities and nuances of this kind of injury. It is different from other forms of trauma. A trauma-informed is not a one-time training or policy without ongoing reinforcement. Can't just read a book and become trauma-informed. It's not a checklist approach that lacks meaningful approach to cultural change. It's not about ignoring the emotional and psychological harm caused to individuals, or labeling bullying as mere conflict, or expecting targets to toughen up. It is not using trauma as an excuse for harmful behavior by aggressors. And it's certainly not an opportunity to weaponize someone's mental health. I've seen many cases where a workplace has made somebody very ill, and then they use the illness that they caused to make them look like they're the ones who are incompetent. That's when we're talking about institutional betrayal. Institutional betrayal is the failure of an organization or institution to protect or support its members, such as by ignoring reports of abuse, covering up misconduct, or enforcing harmful policies, not enforcing, thereby betraying the trust placed in deepening the harm experienced by those affected. Internal systems, for example, are leadership, human resources, occupational health and safety, internal grievance programs, investigation committees, diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. If they do not do anything to protect or prevent or do things to cause further harm, that's internal systems betrayal. External systems betrayal is when your unions do nothing, when they are toxic as well, they're bullying each other, or they may have an under-the-table deal going on with the employer. And we're seeing many cases like that. When the Human Rights Commission is making you wait 2 or 3 years before you're even heard, insurance providers are denying you, making you jump several hoops for months, maybe a year, where you've got to tell your story 10 times, which just creates more harm. Medical and mental health systems that really don't understand this injury and say and do the wrong things that cause further harm, secondary harm. Legal counsel, especially if they're not trauma informed, but also the very fact that they're so expensive you can't afford them is another betrayal. And external investigators that are not trained to do workplace bullying cases. Unfortunately, where I am, anybody can do a willy-nilly investigation. And unfortunately, we're seeing far more harm caused as a result of that. So that's institutional betrayal when the internal and external systems are letting you down and causing you further harm. Where the person was diagnosed with severe PTSD, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, ulcers, their autoimmune system was so beaten, their hair was falling out, they lost a ton of weight. And this person is supposed to walk this tightrope over what I call a minefield. These are all systems that they have to navigate. They have to make sure they say and do the right things, have all the forms filled out by the right dates, and not make a mistake, because if they do, that could cause them a mortgage payment, that could cause them food on the table, that could cause them no medication or no treatment. So they have to walk this minefield and navigate all these systems just to get to the other side, which is survival. They don't want to be injured. They want to be healthy. They want to get back to work. They love their job. How many times have you heard that said? But unfortunately, this person here, within a 2-year period of being on sick leave, had to tell their story to 38 different people. Because, for example, the insurance, maybe somebody went on vacation, somebody transferred to a new position, somebody went on maternal leave. There was just so many reasons. The unions changed all the time. 38 times they had to tell their story. Imagine the re-traumatizing of that. If we had a trauma-informed process involved, that would never happen. So when conducting, for example, workplace investigations, the approach of an investigator plays a crucial and critical role in whether the processes promote psychological safety or causes further harm. A trauma-informed investigator prioritizes empathy, safety, and empowerment, understanding that the individuals may experience significant distress. They might have not even slept the night before. They're fearful and mistrust due to their experiences. They create an environment where the person feels heard, respected, and supported. It is adaptable and flexible. For example, you don't want to be on camera, you don't have to be. You don't want to do an interview on the work site, you don't have to be. They'll meet you off site. You're on sick leave, you really should have a medical that says that you're medically supported to attend these investigation sessions. In contrast, a non-trauma informed investigator may use rigid, impersonal methods that feel clinical or interrogative without sensitivity to the person's psychological state. Their approach can inadvertently re-traumatize the individual, leading to feelings of judgment, invalidation, and re-victimization. This can discourage truth-telling, deepen trust in the process, and ultimately harm the individual's recovery. This is when we see our clients freeze, forget, get all mumble jumbled, and then they don't appear credible. That is another injustice. Here's an example of a non-trauma informed investigator. The setting is cold, it's a formal meeting room, no effort made to ease the environment. The investigator is focused on gathering facts quickly without attention to the individual's emotional state. The investigator's questions are like, we need you to stick to the facts. Can you provide the exact date and time of when the alleged bullying took place? Why didn't you report this sooner if it was such a big deal? Did you have any evidence that what you're saying has actually happened? Did you do anything that might have caused your colleague to react this way? These are true examples. Tone and body language, flat tone, little eye contact, or else they're very stern and they're not very transparent or warm communication. They're focused on the screen or the paperwork rather than the person, and they appear to be rushed or indifferent. The impact on the individual, well, they feel blamed, judged, and dismissed. Their anxiety increases, and they may even shut down, become defensive, or feel re-traumatized. They may leave feeling invalidated, humiliated, and even more isolated. And that also means more fearful and less sleep, and around that cycle of damage goes. A trauma-informed setting, well, that's quiet, a private room with soft lighting, water and tissues are provided. The investigator explains the process beforehand and checks in frequently to ensure comfort and understanding. The investigator's questions are more like, thank you for being here. I know how sharing your experience can be difficult, and I want to make sure that you feel comfortable and safe as possible during this conversation. When you feel ready, can you walk me through what happened in your own words? Take your time, and if you need a break, let me know. How has the situation impacted you both at work and personally? Is there anything I can do right now to help you make this easier on you? You are not to blame for what has happened. We're here to listen and to understand your experience fully. Look at the difference. It's amazing. You're calming that nervous system down, and that person can then speak articulately. Tone and body language is calm, warm, maintains gentle eye contact, uses open body language, takes time to build trust and ensure the person feels in control of their narrative. Impact on the individual feels like respected, heard, supported, more likely to provide a complete and accurate account, leaves the interview feeling validated and with some sense of empowerment rather than feeling harmed by the process. There's a huge difference between these two approaches. One actually helps the recovery, one actually delays the recovery. Why does it matter? I think you probably figured it out by now. But a trauma-informed workplace doesn't just react to bullying. It prevents harm, fosters psychological safety, and promotes a culture of respect and accountability. By integrating trauma-informed principles, organizations can create healthier, more inclusive, more productive work environments, reducing turnover, absenteeism, and legal risks while supporting the well-being of employees. Prevention of harm is priority. Why? If you haven't seen this yet, I'm sure you have, look at the harm on a brain, the inflammation on the brain of long-term cumulative stress. That is the image in the middle. All that red is inflammation, and that is why many who are injured will be saying things like, I can't remember, I can't focus anymore. I read a sentence or two, and then it's completely gone. I'm not retaining it. I can't even make a decision anymore. I can't tolerate loud noise. I can't tolerate the bright lights. It might be them being agitated, impatient, intolerant. And sometimes they're wondering, do I have dementia? Do I have early onset Alzheimer's? No, you don't. You have brain inflammation. And if you want to read more about that, just plug that into your Google search, bully brain, and you will get research today. So this is why it's so serious. We need to avoid inflammation in the brain, and we need to teach our clients about this. So the critical role of trauma-informed training and enhancing workplace well-being. Well, workplace psychological hazards carry the risk of psychological injury, illness, and premature death, making it both logical and rational to integrate trauma-informed skills into the workplace interventions. Equipping all workplace systems and employees, such as leadership, HR, unions, therapists, coaches, and employees, with trauma-informed training not only supports those directly affected, but also reduces the risk of harm, expedites recovery for those injured, and facilitates the repair of work culture. This approach improves overall workplace well-being by reducing costs related to sick leave and turnover, enhancing company reputation, and boosting productivity through healthier, more effective interventions while bridging gaps within and between workplace systems. Again, it is just good business sense. Please feel free to visit our website. We have lots of free downloads, information, informative articles, podcasts, radio, lots there. And if we are not someone, if you need someone in another country, we can help you, because between Gary and I, we are building a very strong international network. I hope this has been helpful. Please feel free to send me any questions. I would love to hear the conversation that happens after this training. So thank you for listening. I want to thank you, Gary, for having me, and best wishes to all of you.